What is going on, everybody? Back again today, and as you can tell by the title of the video and the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about the somewhat recent. I know I'm behind on everything, trust me, but we're going to be talking about the fucking tragedy that is what has happened to the character of the Punisher in Marvel Comics recently. We're going to talk about why it's happened. So, first things first, let's talk about what happened. Story wise, the Punisher, Frank Castle. I'm gonna give a very generalized summary here. I'm not gonna go into a whole lot of detail. If you want to read it, read it. However, I would not pay money for this storyline because it's awful. It's awful what they've done here. They've taken an iconic, beloved character and just absolutely thrown him in the trash and just abandoned him, and we're going to get into why. So, what happened was the Punisher, Frank Castle, became the leader of the ninja crime organization called the Hand. And he got possessed by this entity called the Beast or whatever and whatnot. This is that version of the Punisher where it looks like he's wearing like kind of like samurai ninja armor, and he's got a slightly different Punisher logo. Like it's a skull, but it's slightly different and it has horns coming out of it. Um, this is that character, right? This is that version of the Punisher. So he becomes the leader of the Hand. Then, his long story short, the Punisher's wife comes back to life, and she basically informs the Avengers and everyone that everything you think you know about Frank Castle is wrong. That he was this noble war hero who served his country honorably, that he was this loving husband and father who was just so torn up by grief that his family was murdered that the only way he could make sense of it was to go on this rampage. That's all fiction, she says. The reality is, Frank Castle was a psychopath who wanted to kill living things from day one. As a kid, he murdered small animals and tortured them. He joined the military as a way of finding a legal way of killing people. He was an abusive, alcoholic husband when he was home from the military, and he didn't actually really love his wife or his kids. He just used their deaths as an excuse to finally give in to his murderous ways. Like you guys, if you follow my channel, you know that there are times where I will just fucking go off. And I'll just be fuck this and fuck that and fuck that person and you're a dumbass piece of shit. This is like I'm just so fucking utterly sad and disappointed at this. Like this is sad. I like the Punisher. I like the character. And this is just sad. Because right off the bat, bringing his wife back destroys the character in and of itself, because the whole reason he's doing this is because he lost his wife and children to crime. So you bring his wife back to life. Okay, clearly there's a way to bring people back to life. Punisher's now motivation is no longer I have to wage an eternal war on criminals and crime. It's now okay. My wife managed to come back. Now bring the kids back. Then we can chill. So it immediately destroys the character, bringing his loved ones back in any way, shape, or form. But then to go one step further and be like, all the somewhat redeeming qualities of the Punisher, they were never real. We're doing away with them. We're stripping them from continuity. We're retconning them. He is now just an evil piece of shit, and he never was. It's not the way the character. It's not the way the creator envisioned him. He's a deeply troubled man. He's a man. He's a grieving man, but he's not evil. Sad. It's sad. But how did this happen? And why did this happen? Well, I'm going to talk about the reason that everyone else is talking about, And then I'm going to talk about like my own little personal thing I think also goes along with it, my personal hypothesis. So the first thing we got to talk about is this. Everyone knows, like we saw it in the movie American Sniper with Bradley Cooper, like the Punisher, the character and his skull symbol have become kind of like they've really kind of resonated with law enforcement and military personnel. Like anyone in the world with the kind of combat training skills and experience that the character Frank Castle has, they get it. Like they look at this character and they go, "Yeah, if my loved ones had been brutally murdered in the way that they were for him, and I have this set of skills which I do, I might also do the same shit." Like that Chris Pratt Navy SEAL show on Amazon Prime, the Terminal List. It's essentially the Punisher. Chris Pratt plays a Navy SEAL whose whose family, his wife and daughter, are murdered due to a government conspiracy slash cover up type shit. And yeah, he survives an attempt on his own life, comes home to find his wife and daughter killed, and this character, Chris Pratt's character, the Navy SEAL, he just straight up goes Punisher on these people. Like this is it resonates with a lot of people, but that's where things started to kind of go bad because um, while we all know that like in the military, Navy SEALs and special operators, special forces, even just Marine and Army infantry and whatnot, people in various divisions and branches of the armed forces, so they find themselves in combat and they're forced to hurt and kill people. It's a fact. It happens. Um, the Punisher as a character likes it. He likes killing what he sees as the enemy. It's satisfying to him. The general public of the world does not understand that. They don't understand the idea of enjoying killing someone, period. It doesn't matter how evil or criminal that person may or may not be, they don't get it. They don't get how killing another human being could ever in any way shape or form be satisfying. So, when you've got Navy SEALs who are supposed to be like these guys who are like they hold themselves to a higher standard. They're like our best guys, and they've got the Punisher symbol painted on their trucks. It does kind of give like I was in the military. I get what they're doing. I get it. But to like the people who don't get it, I was not like some kind of gun-toting badass in the military. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying like I was in the military. I get it. To people who don't get it, that kind of looks like putting that Punisher symbol on their trucks and whatnot. It kind of looks like they're saying, "I get a thrill and I enjoy, and I enjoy and get satisfaction out of taking the lives of other human beings," because that's what the Punisher does. The Punisher enjoys it. He does. So that was like the first kind of like step, but it wasn't the big deal. The big deal was this. Let's look at all these fucking articles I'm finding. The Punisher isn't Marvel's anymore. He belongs to the Proud Boys now. How do you stop the far right using the Punisher skull? Make it a Black Lives Matter symbol? Apparently is the answer. I don't know. I haven't read these articles. I'm just looking for I just looked for a bunch of articles in the same vein. Neo-Nazis, the Punisher and cognitive dissonance. Marvel's Punisher problem. Hey, fuck off. Marvel's Punisher problem. This is definitely about yeah. Once again, like far quote unquote far right extremism. And same thing. Is the Punisher logo a hate symbol? So that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with that it's gone beyond people in the armed forces and law enforcement profession who have these skill sets and these skill sets for combat and violence, and they have the training and the experience. It's gone from them just like their character resonates with them because they share that same like military law enforcement background as Frank Castle, and they also kind of get like, yeah, if some like criminal ass people murdered my family, I would go Punisher on their ass too. They understand it from that perspective. It's gone from that to being used by certain groups of people. The symbol has been started to be used by groups of people, and the way they interpret the symbol is simply, um, if you don't like something, pick up some guns and shoot at it. That's a problem. A little bit, I guess. But the question is, does it warrant completely destroying the character? I want to say no. I think just as easily as Marvel did this story arc where they just completely dismantle and destroy and ruin this character, I think they could have easily done a story where like back in the day, Stan Lee, like you remember there's a story that Stan Lee did where like the villain was like the hate, he called himself the hate monger, and he was essentially like he was a stand-in for like the KKK. Like that was the villain of the story that Stan Lee wrote. Like they could have just as easily done something like that. Like start doing stories where the Punisher stands up and fights against these exact kind of people. You could have done that. You could have done stories where the Punish rather than, oh no, people think that the Punisher has become associated with this bad thing, let's get rid of the Punisher. You could have just done more Punisher stories that show how he is not that thing. He's not this thing that he's claiming to be that's claimed to be associated with. You know, rather than just get rid of the character, create distance between the character and this thing that you don't want the character associated with. But Marvel decided to just take the easy way out and get rid of the character. Why? Fear. Fear. There's no secret that there are a lot of, how do I want to put this? There are a lot of left-leaning and politically aligned, left-leaning, politically aligned people who work in, they would call it the arts. I call it the entertainment industry, but it's the same thing essentially. Um, but yeah, and so these people are going to be very anti-right. That makes sense. They're left politically. They are left-leaning. They are more liberal. So they are anti-conservative, anti-right. They work in this environment. I think if we did a poll, not that one of these would ever be done, but if we did a poll over at Marvel Comics, I think we would find there are more left-leaning, liberal, politically aligned people working for that company than there are on the right, than there are right-leaning, conservative uh, people, politically aligned people. So that's got to play a role as well, whether it's to the extent that there's so many left-leaning liberal people working at Marvel that they just get to control all the shots, and they can create a politically driven agenda within the comic books, or there's just so many left-leaning liberally aligned, politically aligned people at working at Marvel that the higher up executives have to live in fear that one of them is going to make some kind of like complaint with HR or take any kind of legal action against them, because it's like, you know, your company employs all these left-leaning liberal people, but then at the same time your company is publishing comic books that feature this symbol, which is apparently associated, it's co-opted, it's claimed by the far right. So it's only a matter of time till some of your, liberal employees come to your HR department and be like, I would like to make a complaint, file a lawsuit, this and that, the other, against Marvel Comics for workplace violence, workplace hatred, oppression, whatever the fuck word they want to assign. There's a matter of time before someone goes that route. So yeah, and it really is a shame that that's where we've gotten in our society, is that like Marvel, like let's say for a minute hypothetically that is the case. Not every like Marvel isn't completely bought and sold liberal left leaning, but there are enough people working there that they have to live in fear. The more center The more center lane or right leaning people have to sit there and live in fear that someone's going to make a big stink out of essentially nothing. That kind of sucks. And then we all pay the price for it because we lose this great character just so that they can feel a little more safe and secure that these crybabies won't bring some bullshit argument to HR. Because that's what it is. Like, you know, if you work at Marvel Comics, you should be a Marvel Comics fan. And you know that the Punisher is not radical right. He's not white supremacist, anti-immigrant, homophobic. He's none of that shit. He's not. The Punisher's none of that. So if you work at Marvel Comics, you should know that, and you should have nothing against the character as he was meant to be. But these days, it's just like play the victim. If you can make yourself into a victim, make yourself into a victim. The company I work for publishes a radical right hate symbol, and I'm left leaning. I'm gonna make a complaint with HR. I'm gonna take legal action. Now, like, fuck. Like, when you know that's not the case, you know that's not what the Punisher's all about. You know that's not what it originally was. You know it's just these dipshit fools who are taking the symbol of the Punisher and using it. But that shouldn't change the character. Like, fuck those people. Like any white supremacist, homophobe, trans, all these people, the whatever people, these prejudiced, elitist, supremacist people that are out there, if they want to paint the fucking Punisher symbol on their cars and wear shirts with it, fuck them. Like, don't let them ruin this character that we all love, but it's too late now. They already did. They let fear and the fear of hatred call the shots, and now this character that we all enjoyed is gone. Like, it's comics. Like, things can get retconned, rebooted. People will come back from the dead. So, like, is this the end for the Punisher? No. No, I don't think so. Honestly, what I think is more than likely going to happen is the Punisher has been confirmed to return in the Daredevil Born Again Disney Plus series, and it's going to be the John Bernthal Netflix Punisher. And that guy was very much the Punisher. Like, he was the Punisher. The good old-fashioned traditional Punisher we all know and love. That was him. So once that show gets off the ground and gets going, which, whenever it does, and we get that Punisher back on the small screen, but still it's back on the screen. Excuse me. Once we get that Punisher back, I think, because they're not going to be able to turn that Punisher into a villain, unless they shoehorn in this like latest Punisher character destroying arc into the Daredevil Born Again series just to turn Punisher into a villain in live action as well. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think all in all, I think the head guys over at Marvel Entertainment and Disney as a whole, they understand that the Punisher, the true Punisher character as he was originally designed, originally created, and originally written, the Punisher is a beloved character and he's a money maker. He's a money maker. People will subscribe to watch that show. So I think they know that. And I think they also know that this change, I think that the backlash and the disappointment and the fan base being upset, I think it's been a clear message to Marvel overall as a whole. So I think they're well aware of, like, look, okay, we did this, but like we for sure, it cannot be permanent. We're going to have to go back on it at a certain point, and we sure as fuck cannot do it in the live action show. Like, people will like that show will tank if what we've done to the Punisher here in comics we do to him in live action, that show will tank. I don't think they want to do that. So I think once the Punisher shows back up in live action in some way, I think that's when we get our real Punisher back in comics. We'll see some kind of retconning happen. This whole bullshit story arc will go away. So I think that's ultimately what's keeping me from being like raving mad, is that like I know this is temporary. It has to be. Like, the Punisher is too much of a money maker in his traditional form that people love. He's too much of a moneymaker for them to just destroy. This is just like a temporary little band-aid on the boo-boo to shut up the crybabies who are all freaking out over the radical right is co-opted the Punisher symbol, blah blah blah. Shut the fuck up. Fuck it. Who cares? As long as the character in the comics doesn't change, as long as the character in the comics doesn't turn into a radical right, neo-Nazi, white supremacist, homophobic dickhead, as long as that doesn't happen, who the fuck cares? Let them put whatever the fuck they want on their trucks, on their guns, on their shirts. I don't give a shit. As long as the character doesn't change. Then they're the morons because they're the ones using a symbol that they think backs up what they believe, but it doesn't at all. It's really sad and disappointing that this had to be done at all. That the fear and cowardice were so great over at Marvel that that this is what they felt they had to do. That's fear and cowardice. If I'm saying this, if I was in charge of Marvel, I would put out a public statement that says this: Yes, I, the Chad Nerd, CEO, total badass leader, big baller, shot caller of Marvel Entertainment and Disney as a whole. I understand that a lot of radical right, shitty groups of people have started using the Punisher symbol. I don't give a fuck. Fuck off. That would have been my public announcement in pure Punisher style. I don't fucking care. Fuck off. The character is what he's always been. He's not changing. Fuck off. That would have been my answer. But it's probably why I don't work in comics. It's probably why I don't work anywhere where my voice and what I say really matters. Oh well. But yeah, it's really shitty and it really sucks. I'm still a fan of the Punisher. I still rewatched the 2 seasons of the Netflix show we got. Still a big fan of the Tom Jane Punisher movie. Still read Punisher in the comics, the old comics. Stuff is great. It's worth rereading. He's a great character, and I know that we haven't seen the last of like the true Punisher. I know he's gonna be back, but yeah, this just in the meantime, this just sucks, and it's super disappointing and sad that this had to happen this way. So the only other thing I was going to touch on is I see this. It's more than just like the fact that like certain like political groups have started to use the Punisher symbol. I've started to see this. I'm going to talk about this for a second. I've started to see this happening across the board in uh, not just Marvel comics, but DC a little bit as well. So I was reading Avengers versus X-Men versus Eternals, Judgment Day, and in that book, like there's fights. People fight, they throw knives, stab each other, punch and kick each other. The violence is there, right? The violence is there. But when it came time for like the big dilemma, the problem, the challenge to be over, when it came time for the dilemma and the problem to be solved, the challenge to be overcome, the way they did it was the whole long story short, this giant celestial had showed up and had started judging Earth and all of the Earth's inhabitants. And if it judged them thumbs down negatively, he just like wiped them out. Um, the way they defeated this celestial was Cersei, one of the Eternals, basically wagged her finger at it and was like, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing this because judging people is wrong. It's not a nice thing to do. That you're no better than anyone else, so you don't have a right to judge. Judging people is wrong. Now put the world back the way it was." And then the Celestial was like, "Huh, I never thought about it like that. I guess judging people is wrong." Boom, puts the world back the way it was. That was some lame shit. That was some lame wussy ass punk ass shit. Like the violence was there prior to like the end and all that. There was fighting and punching and kicking and stabbing and throwing people against wall. There was fighting. The violence is there, but when it comes time, when it's crunch time, when the chips are down, it seems like the prevailing theme these days is violence can be present in the story, but it cannot under any circumstances be the way that the problem is ultimately solved. For instance, back in the day, you had a villain, right? You had a villain, you had a bad guy, a monster, an alien race invading your planet, a demonic incursion. You had a bad guy or a bad army. You had bad guys. And the way that you dealt with that problem was the good guys beat up the bad guys, hurt them, physically harmed them with violence, and then either A, locked them the fuck up, or B, killed them. That's how the problems were solved. If the problem was like, oh no, a volcano is going to kill a bunch of people, then it's like, okay, we got to stop the volcano. Oh no, a ship is sinking. Okay, well then you got to save the people from the sinking ship. But if the problem stemmed from the actions of a sentient individual, the answer was kick the ever-living fuck out of that individual and then A, lock them up, or B, kill them. And it seems like in this 2023 like new age progressive bullshit era where it's like, oh, we have to be nicer to one another. It's like, okay, the problem, whatever the problem that the protagonists are facing in this story, they cannot solve the problem. The problem cannot ultimately be solved through violence. Fuck that. This is superhero comics. Like one of the key core components of superhero comics and superhero stories is the superheroes fight the supervillains. The good guys fight the bad guys. If that's not going to be present, then I'm not interested. Well, no, it'll still be present. Like they'll fight, but then in the end, they're going to talk it out. That's some lame, wussy ass, punk ass shit. And I saw it in the I saw it in the Axe Judgment Day. Now they're doing this with Punisher. Like, and he's violent. Punisher 100% believes, like, yeah, solve the problem with violence. Kill the bad guy. Kill him. I see it in DC as well. It's like the characters can fight, but the problem, the challenge, cannot ultimately be solved or overcome through violence. Fuck that. Let's get back to some good old superhero stories where, oh hey, there is a sentient life form over there doing bad shit, harming people, destroying stuff. Let's go kick the fuck out of them and then either lock them up or kill them. Let's get back to that. That's fine. Let's get back to that. You guys remember a show called Dragon Ball Z? Remember how popular that was? That show was nothing but, oh, a new adversary has shown up. I guess we better kick the fuck out of them and then either kill them or like seal them away in another dimension or some shit like that. But most of the time it was kill Frieza. Like Goku did his damnedest to not kill Frieza, and ultimately he didn't. Trunks did, but then Frieza came back. But you know what I mean? Like Frieza, but they were prepared to kill him. The androids, they were prepared to kill him, destroy him. Cell killed him. Like, it's fine. If the problem is coming from an evil, bad guy, sentient individual, then the solution to the problem, like defeating them physically, kicking the fuck out of them, and then locking them up or killing them, is a viable solution to the problem. Yeah, but we just think that like that just sends a message to children these days that violence solves problems and violence is the answer. Guess what, dumb fucks? Children are not reading comics anymore. This is not the days of children going to the comic book shop and having a pull list and walking out of there every Wednesday with like 12 comics, a dozen comics from their pull list. Those days are done because children don't have their own income and cannot drive themselves to the comic book store. So that children are not your target market anymore. If that's the kind of theme and vibe, a very non-violent theme vibe, if that's what you want to put in your animated series on Disney Channel and some shows on Disney Plus, great, go for it. But when it comes to like comic books that people are going to the store, you're looking at like at a minimum, you're looking at age 16 and up. 16 and up. And I'm sorry, but a 16-year-old can handle I don't know, fucking a 16-year-old could handle. I'm trying to think of like some superheroes that would kill. I know Superman doesn't do it a whole lot. Batman never does. Okay, I got it. A 16-year-old could handle Aquaman just trident spearing the fuck out of a bad guy. Just fucking sink through the chest, punctured lungs, punctured heart, kills the bad guy. 16-year-olds and up can handle that shit. It doesn't fuck with their psyche and their brains. It's fine. All right, children, little children are not your target market anymore. So stop thinking in terms of that. Like, we just think it sends a bad message to the kids. It's not for the kids. It's not. Your little cartoons on Disney Channel are for the kids. Comics are for the teens to adults. Movies should be for the teens to adults. If you're making a superhero film or live action TV show or animated TV, like your mindset should be PG-13. If it can be featured in a PG-13 film, then it's fine. It is acceptable content for this stuff. And I want to remind you, PG-13 content, PG-13. Let's see here. All of the Lord of the Rings films and all of the violence that was seen in those were PG-13 films. Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith, that's a PG-13 film. In that there is the implied murder of children, and then we also literally watch a guy burn alive. That's pretty fucking violent and graphic. What else is PG-13? Like there's a lot. There's just a lot. There's a lot of shit out there. It's PG-13 and it's fine. Most superhero films in the past were PG-13. Like that's what made them good. They could actually be a little more adult. So like adults and their like kids could go see them. I remember going to see the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire when it came out. I was like 9. I think I was like 9 years old. And my dad was in his 40s. And we both sat there and enjoyed it. The 9-year-old and the 40-year-old were able to enjoy it. Why? Because it hit that nice sweet spot, PG-13. So, yeah. I mean, like overall, what was done to the Punisher specifically and how they totally just threw that character in the trash, I think that ultimately it does have more to do with like stuff in those articles that I showed you guys. But I just wanted to bring that up that like I have been noticing a prevalent theme of the problems and challenge. The problems cannot be solved. The challenges cannot be overcome through violence. Has to be some other way. And I don't know. I think I speak for a lot of like comic books, sci-fi fantasy fans out there when I say fuck that. It's one of the reasons that I'm really enjoying Warhammer 40,000 right now because it is still, even though it is getting a little more poppy, like it's more. I think it's more popular today than it's ever been. It is getting more poppy, more popular. It still is true to itself. Like there have been some changes, but I haven't had a problem with any of them. Like Warhammer 40,000 is still pretty damn true to Warhammer 40,000, what it's always been, and I hope it always stays that way. Because in Warhammer 40,000, like it's in the tagline itself, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, and in war, people kill each other. So the violence will never be taken out of Warhammer 40,000. Maybe that's why I'm enjoying it. It's like they're just like, this shit is not for tiny children, so we're never gonna make it for tiny children. The problem was comics at one point were. Comics started out as being for very little children, and now they're not. But anyway, that's my take on that. I just wanted to touch on it. I wanted to do a video of it the day I found out, but like I said in my previous video, I talked about like you notice I got a new kind of background setting going on here. My life the past like 2-3 months has just been nuts with the new job that I thought I was more settled into than I was. So job plus we bought a house and had to get everything set up with move into the house and whatnot and go through the whole process of buying a house. So, but I'm kind of settled, stable, and ready to make videos again. So I got to play catch up on everything I missed making a video of the past like 2-3 months and try to also keep up with new stuff as it comes. So yeah, but that's everything I have to say about the Punisher thing. It was really sad, really disappointing. It's a shame. But yeah, let me know what you guys all think. Leave some comments down below. Get a discussion started. If you like this video, please hit the like button and the notification bell. That really helps out my channel. If you want to help out my channel even more, go to my channel page, check out some of my other videos, and maybe subscribe. Other than that, I'll talk to you guys later.